Now is the turn for Honorable Davis Opoku.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to bring to the attention of this House to the unlawful ministerial interference in the enforcement actions of the National Communications Authority. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with deep concern regarding the recent directive issued by the Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations in a media advisory dated 18 February 2025. This directive unlawfully instructs the National Communications Authority to take enforcement action against certain broadcasting stations allegedly operating without valid authorization. Such actions represent an unacceptable overreach of executive authority, undermining institutional independence, press freedom, and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the Minister does not possess the legal authority to direct the NCA's regulatory or enforcement actions. Mr. Speaker, Section 3(1) of the National Communications Act states that except as otherwise provided in this Act, the authority shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority in performing its functions. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, the Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775, reinforces this independence. Mr. Speaker, I specifically refer this House to Section 2(4), which says that broadcasting services require frequency authorization by the NCA. Section 9 talks about spectrum usage requires NCA authorization, and Section 58(1) says that the NCA controls, plans, administers, and licenses the radio frequency spectrum. The Minister's directive to close certain broadcasting stations directly contravenes these provisions. Mr. Speaker, if allowed to remain in effect, it could set a dangerous precedent for political interference in independent institutions, potentially extending beyond the NCA. Mr. Speaker, the Minister's role is confined to policy direction, not enforcement. Section 97(1) of the Act 775 states, the Minister may, on the advice of the authority by legislative instrument, make regulations generally to give effect to the provisions of this Act. Section 41 of the same Act limits the Minister's powers to policy directives, not operational decisions. The directive issued in the media advisory oversteps legal boundaries and constitutes executive overreach. Mr. Speaker, due process was ignored. Even if the affected stations encounter licensing issues, the law specifies a procedure for addressing such matters. Mr. Speaker, Section 9 of Act 775 requires formal notification of the alleged breach. It also requires a reasonable time frame which must be provided for rectification. And the same Act says that the station must be allowed to appeal before enforcement action is taken. Section 13 of Act 775 further stipulates that the frequency authorization may be revoked following due process. There is no evidence that these legal procedures were observed prior to the Minister's directive. If enforcement actions proceed without adherence to due process, this directive will constitute an abuse of executive power and direct threat to fair regulatory practices. Mr. Speaker, press freedom is also under threat. The directive is not merely a regulatory overreach. It constitutes an assault on press freedom. Article 21, 1A of the 1992 Constitution assures freedom of expression, including media freedom. Governments' direct shutdowns without due process convey a chilling message to journalists and media organizations that their operations are subject to political approval. A free press is vital for democratic accountability, and this unconstitutional interference must not be tolerated. Mr. Speaker, this House must act swiftly to prevent any further abuse of power. I have submitted a half-hour motion summoning the minister to appear before Parliament to explain this unlawful directive. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I urge Parliament to summon the Minister of Communications and to clarify this unlawful directive to the NCA. 2, instruct the NCA to suspend all enforcement actions related to the Minister's directive until due process is confirmed. 3, charge the committees on communications and constitutional and legal affairs with investigating whether the minister acted unilaterally or under political influence. Right Honorable Speaker, this represents a test of our commitment to democracy. This issue transcends political parties and centers on safeguarding of our democracy. We must act decisively to uphold the rule of law and prevent any further executive outrage. Ghana's democracy is at stake. Thank you very much for the opportunity to bring this matter to your attention. Thank you.